What makes young people crazy rave?
I'm curious what makes you so curious. What makes you so curious.
In the beginning was the beat.
Welcome to the Rave Curious Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Glazer. What are we curious about? We're curious about electronic music and the culture that surrounds it. And how do we satisfy that curiosity? We do it by talking to some of the people who have dedicated their lives to the electronic music scene, the DJs, producers, promoters, and more. My guest on today's podcast is Danny Daze. I didn't know a whole lot about Danny before I was asked if I'd like to have him on the podcast, but apparently I really should have, because even though he's quite a bit younger than I am, he's a DJ whose tastes really just fall right into my sweet spot. And after we talked and I realized how much we had in common in terms of knowing the same people and appreciating the same music, I kind of dug into his DJ mixes and productions, and everything I heard was more or less spot on. One of the reasons I really enjoy doing this podcast is because these conversations give me new and different ways to think about electronic music. I spend a lot of time thinking about electronic music, talking about electronic music, writing about electronic music, and I'm always amazed at the just the various elements and realities that come to light when you have these sorts of conversations where you're not really trying to get the DJ to answer your questions so much as you're trying to just kind of talk to them. And talking to Danny reminded me of two things about this culture. The first is just how young a lot of people are when they start discovering this music and going to parties. I think Danny said he was 13 when he got into this, and nowadays I think a lot of electronic music events take place at clubs where you have to be 21 to get in, or at least 18. But back in the 90s, when things were really underground and a lot of parties didn't even have a bar, there was certainly nobody checking ID. It wasn't uncommon for a party to be completely full of teenagers, some of them really young, like not old enough to drive, and that that made a lot of people uncomfortable, as perhaps it should have, given the youthfulness of the crowd and some of the the permissive attitudes of that scene. But I went to my first party when I was in high school, around 16 or 17, and it was just I knew a guy who knew this place, who had this friend who told us to go here, and being we were 16, maybe 17, couldn't go to bars, couldn't go to clubs, wanted to do something that wasn't hanging out out in front of a liquor store. So we ended up at this kind of weird after hours techno thing in downtown Detroit. This was 1992. This was before the Detroit rave scene really happened. It was kind of after the Music Institute and after that first wave of Detroit techno, but before the second wave with Richie Houghton and all that really kicked in. But I went off to college in 93, and I was away at school, and plus I had this girlfriend who at least in my version of events, broke up with me so she could become a raver, which of course made me not so fond of going to raves. And it wasn't really until I turned 21 that I finally locked in to techno and parties and really became a lifer. And I've talked about that experience on this podcast before. Actually, the party that really changed me, Sickness and Recovery, with Jeff Mills and Richie Houghton in a Beanfield in Windsor, just had its 20th anniversary last week or 2 weeks ago. It was 20 years since the party where I discovered techno, but I was already a bit older than a lot of the crowd at that time, and being 21 and having already lived some life, I already saw that there was some youthful silliness that I just wasn't going to get involved in. But it was also funny because for years I kind of felt like a poser because people assumed I was more old school than I actually was due to my age. Like if I started partying in 96 and everyone else my age started partying in 92, 93, that felt like a huge difference. I guess at that age, every year or two is massive. I mean, at that age, every couple weeks, can be a revelation. And I talked to Danny about that. Especially back in the days before the internet, you couldn't just instantly access the entire history of something. It took a long time to learn about a scene and, to discover all the records and to learn how kind of things work. And, now everything is just a few clicks away. But I don't know if having that kind of access actually leads to more understanding if it's just dumped all on you at once. Another thing Danny and I talk about is the Miami experimental scene that popped up in the early 2000s with labels like Merrick and Schematic. That was kind of, really a big deal for a couple of years. Really had people all over the world paying attention. And then just as quickly, it faded away. And that got me thinking how common that is in this music and probably any music. But, how these little scenes pop up, they make some waves, and then for whatever reason, maybe it's the wrong time, maybe it's the wrong place, they just aren't able to sustain in the long run. But these micro scenes often end up having a massive impact on the few people who were, lucky enough to be involved and to experience them. I think the perfect example of that is Drop Bass Network, who were a Midwest party crew out of Milwaukee, definitely most famous for being the first to bring Daft Punk to America back in 1996. And I think really the only reason that fact is commonly known is because, unlike most events from that era, there's actually a video on YouTube of a pre-helmet Thomas Bangalter playing all the early Daft Punk hits in a tent in rural Wisconsin. It was part of a weekend-long techno camp out called Further, which in and of itself kind of has this lore around it. And then, because Daft Punk became Daft Punk, and because this footage happened to exist, then you've got Michelangelo Matos, who's a music writer who just happened to have come from that community, writing about Daft Punk, playing for Drop Bass in Spin magazine. So it becomes then part of dance music history, where a lot of equally deserving scenes do not really get that sort of attention. So, as for me, I definitely, I know the Drop Bass guys personally. I went to a few of their events. I went to a couple of Furthers, and I won't even try to describe them here. I think if you want to go back and listen to the podcast I did with Tommy Sunshine a couple months ago, we tell some tales about partying at Further. So if you want to learn more, you can go check that out. And if you're really, really interested, you can actually go to Even Further 2016, which is happening this weekend, August 19th through the 22nd. I quote, somewhere in Wisconsin. And, this is the first Further festival that Drop Bass has thrown since 2001, I believe, maybe 2002, but I'm pretty sure 2001. It's also, it's the first Drop Bass event in well over a decade. And when they announced this was happening, I actually bought a ticket the day they went on sale. They actually offered a discount for ravers over 35, which I thought was great, and I was happy to hand them my money. Turns out I'm not actually going to Even Further because A, I'm going to be in Berlin this weekend, and B, well, come to find out, my old raver friends don't quite have the fire in our bellies to travel all the way to an undisclosed location in rural Wisconsin to take drugs in a field and listen to techno and house and hardcore music for 72 hours straight like we used to do 15 years ago. I mean, I can hardly imagine how my 41-year-old sober self would react to that kind of extended exposure. So let me just wrap up this introduction by saying to all the old ravers who are heading out to Even Further this weekend, I salute you. To any of the young ravers going, good luck, Godspeed. I hope you're ready for what's in store for you. Further is not just an electronic music festival. It is, to me, the pinnacle of trial by party. And on that note, here is my conversation with Danny Daze. Get into town today?
I got into town last night.
All right, from Miami, yeah?
From Amsterdam.
Amsterdam.
Yeah, I flew Amsterdam, London here.
What's going on in Amsterdam?
Just DJing.
Gig?
Yeah,
Where'd you
I
play?
just played for like 23,000 people. It was
Jesus.
intense. It was intense. Yeah, it was a big party.
Where was this? What was the party?
It was called Amsterdam Open Air.
Oh.
Yeah, as simple as you can get.
Sometimes one of the things I love about Europeans is just the name is just
super in your face.
Yeah, is open air because there's
It's
no
open
roof.
air, yeah.
I lived in Berlin for 4 years. And
Oh,
one of the
nice.
things
What area?
It was in Kreuzberg,
Hmm.
like right at Gorlitzer Park.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So-
That's. Wow, I live right by there. I live
Okay,
on,
where's
I
it?
live
Oh,
on
that's right, you have a spot there.
Cottbusser Dam.
Okay, I'm at on Wiener Straße.
Oh,
right
okay.
at
Cool.
Spreewaldplatz.
Nice.
So, but I remember like when I first moved there, one of the things it's like because I moved there in the summer and it was like open air, and I was just like, what's it? Well,
Just everything
just
literally
literal
says open air.
translation, yeah.
Yeah, it's
just
awesome.
Like,
I love it. I love how simple it is and how like I don't know. Here we translate, especially in LA. Just create your own slang for absolutely everything.
yeah, right.
And it only exists here in LA or even in the United States. After that, it just doesn't exist anywhere else, especially like in China and stuff like that or in Japan in general. Oh my God. It's insane.
Yeah, one thing I learned because I used to do, I was doing some like social media marketing for like a big techno party brand, and they were doing a lot of stuff in Amsterdam, and I was constantly like, we should really be doing some stuff in Dutch because it performs better. Like you look at the actual analytics on like Facebook ads and whatever, and
Okay.
we did some testing, and I was like, yeah, every time we run something in Dutch, it performs better.
Right.
But
right.
our the promoters were actually a Dutch duo who had kind of moved to Berlin to work for this company.
Right.
And they were like, yeah, you just can't. It's just not cool. Like you can't say anything. Like I'd be like, how do you say this in Dutch? And I'd be like,
you can't really translate it.
You just don't.
You just
like,
you just can't translate
there's
it.
nothing cool about our language. So
Yeah,
they want
that's
everything
that's
to
a
be
lot
in
for a
English.
lot of languages. It's
Mhm.
it's crazy. It's like that. Like well, I think one of the ones that are like proprietary like that, where they have their own thing, is Brazil. Brazil, if you run stuff in Brazil, if you run stuff in Portuguese, it just goes off the scales, just like off the charts. It's because I have no clue why. I guess it's because this is so new to them, and they have their own language they're out there in the middle of nowhere. It's insane when you run something in their language.
Yeah, I see it like if you do stuff, because we're doing some stuff in Barcelona.
Right.
And then it's like, yeah, everything has to be in Spanish.
Right,
And Spanish
right,
kind of
right.
makes sense because like Spanish is a language that there's enough people in the world that speak Spanish and it's global enough and it has its own media.
I would
it has
think it's
its own
probably
music.
the second most spoken language.
I'm sure it's got to be up there.
In between, between South America, the United States, and all of over there, I think it probably. Well, I don't know because when you got Russia,
You think of Russia, China,
yeah,
well,
right,
whatever.
right.
The ranking aside, yeah, it's like there is enough Spanish movies and music and television that you can live a life that's very much just is all in Spanish. Wow, if you speak Dutch, there's not that much stuff in Dutch outside this tiny little country.
Right.
So
right,
all the
right.
music, all the movies, everything, everybody speaks English.
Yeah.
So what about you? Do you speak Spanish?
Yeah, Spanish, a little bit of Portuguese, a little bit of Italian, learning German. No, I'm actually not learning German.
Nobody learns
I'm not
German.
even.
Nobody
No,
learns
no, no.
German.
You
Don't feel
learn,
bad.
You learn what you want to say in German. You're like Quittung bitte, like okay, receipt please for tax purposes.
Yeah, right.
But so you learn the stuff that you want, but no, can I have a conversation? No, not even remotely close.
I had a few friends that moved to Berlin. We'll say like 99, 2000.
Oh
like
my
they
God.
moved early enough.
When stuff was like $100 a square foot.
Right. And they were basically like we had to learn German because that was the only way we could sleep with the East German girls.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
now it's just like it's not even an issue.
Now you just say you're American and it's fine. They smell it on you.
Well, and you're never hanging out with just Germans. Like you're constantly in a group where it's like you might be with 3 Germans, but there's also like 2 Americans and Canadian,
and 2 Italians.
and, like, exactly.
Yeah.
And so everyone ends up.
That's what I like
defaulting
about
to English.
Berlin. I mean, that's Berlin though. That's it. Like everywhere else, if you go to Leipzig, like very close by, it's not like that.
Yeah.
Tunisia is becoming that now. Not Tunisia. God, where did I just play? Completely forgot where I just played. In Portugal.
Oh, yeah. What's the big
Not
place in
Porto. The other one. Does it start with a T?
It probably doesn't, which is probably what's throwing us off.
To something. That's becoming like the new Berlin.
Okay.
God, what's it called?
But everyone's always trying to be like, this is the new Berlin, that's the new Berlin.
It's becoming like I went there on Friday. I was like, wow, this place is whatever. We'll find out.
Google,
what it
they
is.
can Google it if
Yeah.
people really care. Google where the part, Google where Danny Daze played in
And on
Portugal
Friday.
last week.
Yeah.
And what's this is what month is it? It's June.
We're
So if you're listening to
June
this a
right
few months
now.
from now, you
Yeah.
can go back, look up
Sometime in June.
where did Danny Daze play in Portugal in
Yeah.
June of 2016.
That place is badass. It's becoming awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is it? Like what's going on there? Is it like?
It's just a new movement. You can just see the excitement in people. It's just something new. There's a lot of things are cheap right now, so people are buying property, living there for extremely cheap. It's exactly what happened in Berlin. Just
Okay.
Even in 2010, you can still buy a really nice place for like 50,000 euros, 60,000 euros, a 2-bedroom with two.
Mm-hmm.
Now that same thing is going for 250. So
Yeah.
it's crazy. The exponential growth in a matter of like 5 years.
It's crazy how much it went up. So how long have you had to place there?
3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of got in maybe right before it really.
Well, I didn't buy. I'm renting, and
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just literally burning money and throwing it out the window. But I'm trying to buy now.
When you can't even Airbnb it anymore. Like they passed that new regulation. Like I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you would want to Airbnb your spot anyways. 'Cause,
I was intending on Airbnb, to be honest. I was probably going to buy it and rent it out. I
Yeah.
wasn't even going to live in it. But yeah, I would like to still try and buy. There's a way to Airbnb. I just don't know what the regulations are now.
Yeah, because they just passed something new where it's like you can't. Like you can rent if you have a spare room.
Yes,
and you want to rent the room out via
You can rent a
Airbnb.
room, yeah.
That's fine, but you can't Airbnb your entire.
There's always loopholes
property.
around
There's
it.
always, of course, and
It's always like, yeah, I'm, fine print. I'm not supposed to rent out this room, but yeah, I'm gonna be traveling, so you can make sure be sure
Exactly.
you can use the whole house if you want to.
And Berliners, the Berlin bureaucracy.
Yeah,
It's funny, like Germans have this reputation for being so thorough and precise.
yeah.
Berlin is just like it's like they can't keep it together.
it's
man.
a complete opposite. Yeah, it's a complete opposite. It's
So
techno
do
town.
you know Dustin Zahn?
Yeah.
He just had a great. He does a podcast as well.
Yeah.
Called Trainwrecks. I don't know if
Yeah,
you've
right.
checked that out.
I have. Yeah, I heard him and Anthony Parasol.
Okay.
They did one recently.
He
yeah.
did one with Derek Plaslako.
Nice.
Where the whole thing starts with Dustin tells this whole story about there was like this Airbnb like protest, like anti-Airbnb protest going on
Okay.
outside of his building. He's right on I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say where he lives. But he's right on the canal.
Yeah.
Right on my Bakufa.
Yeah.
And there was a protest, and like the protesters like got into the building. First they like broke open the door, they got into the stairwell, and then they got into like because some of the apartments in his building
Were being rented out?
are being just Airbnb'd out. Like
Oh,
nobody
wow.
lives there. And they broke into one of the apartments, and they were like occupying the Airbnb apartment. It's a really hilarious story. You should listen to
Wow.
it. And
Okay.
just the way Dustin tells it.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
guess it was like he said this was like a few days after they passed the regulation. So it's like
Right.
you got what you wanted.
I think this was May 1st.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Like right on May Day, I think
Mm-hmm.
it probably passed.
That would have been when all this happened as well.
Right.
So, were you out there for May Day this
Yeah,
year?
I was. I played out there. It
was that?
it was absolutely insane. I stayed awake for about 36 hours straight.
Okay, almost
Yeah.
my record. Close to
30
my record.
I've done 48. I've done 72 hours straight. I've done like an entire weekend, but this was like 36 hours of drinking.
Yeah,
Of just like I don't even know how I got home. But
I haven't made it to May Day the last 2 years, which was like I'm always like, oh, I want to at least get back for May Day.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't work out. But I love May Day, even though every single May Day, I made it through four May Days in Berlin.
Yeah.
And every single May Day, something terrible happened.
I don't think
like-
anything crazy happened this time.
It's like every May Day, it's
somebody
like
just got
like-
massacred or
Well, it was always just like somebody found out his girlfriend had been cheating on him, and then the next
right.
year I might have cheated on my girlfriend, and then like the year after that, this like woman I was dating like ended it. I'm like, it's like every May Day something terrible happens.
right.
Yet we always look forward to May Day.
Yeah. The last one, like you chopped your thumb off by mistake.
Oh man, I'll don't even
Yeah.
talk about that. My fiance just did that a few weeks ago.
Whoa.
Like took the tip off.
Ooh,
Like, it's
cooking?
yeah, mandolin,
Oh my god!
like
Ugh.
a slicer thing, and oh dude, they had to like.
That's yeah.
They had to
I don't-
cauterize the end. But it's crazy now, like what they do, and this is brand new. They have this stuff called Surgicel, and it's like it looks like a screen.
glue.
It looks like a screen that you would
Okay.
like a screen that you would like put in like your pipe or something, and they cut a little piece and they kind of shape it to the like what the finger should be. This is if you use like the very very tip,
Yeah.
and then they cauterize the whole thing, and it literally builds like a frame for the flesh as it grows back to grow over the frame.
Wow.
Like it's some straight like cybernetic organism shit.
That is crazy. Wow.
So,
You can't do that with an entire arm, can you?
not yet, but
Just starts growing into another arm.
I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, this is like this is like
crazy.
it's like the cover of a Warp Records album.
Yeah. New Afix, yeah.
So I just saw he announced something new, right?
I mean, he's dropping something every single day, basically.
Right? Am I the
Every
only one
single
that's
day.
feeling a little Aphex fatigue? I feel like
To be honest, I haven't listened to
heresy.
absolutely everything. Like
You can't.
it's fine. You know, I think I'm traveling way too much. I enjoy silence now. To be honest, I enjoy silence. I enjoy not even. I'd rather listen to white noise, just like in the background. There's just the airplane vibes. Like it's too much music. Especially now in the digital age, oh my God! There's how many tracks are dropping in every single day?
All right,
It's
so
gotta
hold
be
on.
by the thousands.
Hold on. So you talk about the digital age. I mean, do you remember pre-digital age? I mean, because I just turned 40. No,
Okay.
it's not true. I'm almost 41.
Yeah.
But like, I clearly remember a pre-digital age and was like active in it. Is that
Well, I started DJing in '99.
okay? So you're like
So-
right on the cusp of pre-digital.
Yeah, I think Final Scratch came out in around 2002, 2000, maybe
Hold
around
on.
2002. I heard DJ Craze. Maybe it might have been like 2001. Final Scratch. Was it Final Scratch? That's what it was called. Final Scratch.
Yeah. No, John Aquaviva beta tested Final Scratch
Yeah.
at this club I was running in Detroit
Okay.
on New Year's 2001.
2001.
So that
okay.
was like
Okay.
the very late 2000 was when like him and Houghton first started beta testing it.
Right,
Like, going
okay.
out with the laptops.
I heard DJ Craze play
Would have
with
been-
it,
yeah, it would have been like
and he
2002 was
he
kinda
did
when
he did an entire routine off of a computer.
Mhm.
And I was like, what is this guy doing? This is some next level. Like, you're there. I thought the music was getting transferred into the vinyl. I didn't really know how it was working. I didn't know it was a control record that processes through the computer. So I was just freaking out. And I don't know how old I was, 13, 14 years old. I was just freaking out. And so I was into, I have 6,000 vinyls at my house. So it's definitely into the pre-digital age.
So you were going out at 13, 14 and
I
seeing
was
stuff
DJing
like this?
already at 13.
Okay.
Yeah, I was DJing at Full Moon, which was it's a rave in Miami on full moons. It was inside an arcade castle, Malibu Castle Park, and everything like you would have the batting cages would be happy hardcore, the golf course would be drum and bass, the inside break room would be break beats. Then there was about 8 different rooms, and it was just people doing on acid on absolutely everything, anything you can imagine. People were on. And they were all separated. It was an ambient room, trip hop room. Like, it was amazing. That doesn't
See,
exist.
we didn't have
anymore.
anything like that in Detroit. Like, well, there was one, was like a water park or something. Someone brought Autechre to a water park in like 1996, and it had to be a water park because there are no amusement parks near
A
Detroit.
water park, yeah.
But same kind of deal
Like
where it's
Ann
like-
Arbor area or like in
no,
Detroit?
it was. Oh God, I don't remember where it was, but it was like, but the same kind of place. It had like probably had like water slides and go karts and
Right.
batting cages and putt golf and
Right.
all that stuff. But it was it's like a regular thing that was happening in Miami. Like it was like a weekly.
every month,
Oh wow.
every full moon.
Okay. Oh yeah. that makes sense.
every full moon.
So how does a 13-year-old get plugged into that? Like how like why don't we go back to like because you were born and raised in
Yeah.
Miami, Cuban parents, correct?
Yeah.
So at what point does it become? Because I think like when I was 13, I was barely leaving the house.
Well, I was
like-
fishing at that time. I was very into fishing,
Okay.
into baseball cards. But then I was always into breakdancing, and I saw a DJ, battle style DJ, playing Miami bass music. People were breakdancing to it. I was like, I'm cool, I'm dancing, but what that guy's doing over there is super cool. I want to do that. And from one day to the other, my mom bought me DJ equipment. And I started doing weddings. At 13, I was already playing weddings. I wasn't doing the announcements and stuff because, I had
Your voice is cracking.
I had a voice. Yeah, I barely. Yeah, my voice was. I sounded like an 8-year-old girl at that time. But it was. That's when I first started, and then from 13, I would end up using all that money that I was getting from weddings, from like bat mitzvahs and proms, to go and buy electro records.
Mm-hmm.
And then little by little, I just got into the scene. I just got into it. They were like, some guy. I guess they used me as novelty, to be honest, because I was like 4 feet tall. but I knew how to kind of scratch, and I played some good electro, so they kind of used me as a novelty.
And I can picture you at 14 kind of looking like A-Track at 14, so there's
Probably, yeah.
like, there was like a precedent for like these really young...
Yeah, I kind of had that vibe. That,
yeah,
like,
right?
Yeah, that was totally my vibe, like a fade haircut with like really thin sideburns going down, very Cuban. That was my thing, yeah. So that's how I got started.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in Miami. You're doing this. You get into some trouble. I know it was a few years later.
Yeah. I got into trouble a couple years later. Yeah.
And then, I think that story is probably a little overtold.
No, I think I've only said it once, to be honest. Yeah, I got in trouble. I went to jail for selling drugs. I like to not talk too much about it, but I had a very rough childhood because not physically or anything, but my father left my mom, and I just had to make money. And I did what I had to do, and it was a worst and best mistake of my life because I learned how to be a man very quick. As soon as I went to jail, as soon as I got out of house arrest, as soon as all that, I learned who my friends were, who was there for me, and it made me a man like in a matter of 1 year. I just became from a little boy that had these like pipe dreams to understanding what reality was. And that was it was a good lesson learned.
So that thought just terrifies me. Like I can't imagine.
I couldn't imagine it. My mom couldn't imagine it. I'm not. I never had a detention in school. I was on the verge of going to a private school in Miami, University of Miami, on a scholarship, and yeah, it was
just the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, you're not the only one. I think like DVS1, I think is he's been publicly said like he did some time for same thing, that kind of just like fucking rave shenanigans. That everyone we know either did it or had friends who did it. I was lucky enough that because I found myself running a nightclub.
Right.
And there was constantly these offers coming. Like people were constantly like, "Yo, man, like I could hook you up with like buy this, and you could sell this. It'd be so easy, and you got this a fucking office in the basement of a 1,500 person nightclub. I can do whatever the fuck I want."
Exactly.
But I also knew I was like, man, like I'm the first person that's getting looked at.
Yeah. You would be the first person. I got set up. My thing was a full setup. I ended up getting rifles pointed to my head. By the time I was getting booked, I noticed that I urinated all over myself. It was intense. Like rifles to the head. I remember them telling me stop resisting, which was something that always sticks in my head. The fact that they told me stop resisting, and I definitely was not resisting. I was like, my hands were up in the air. I was on the floor. That always sticks with me.
I imagine you've been thinking about that a lot the past year or two, because I mean that's definitely become like the whole like the thing in Missouri, shows your hands.
I experienced it. Yeah, I experienced it myself, and I was maybe 18 years old, 19. I forgot when that happened, 18 or 19. But I experienced it myself, and it was insane. And the way they treated me after, like, it just sucks. Like there's definitely something going on with the power out here in the United States that needs to be corrected. But that's a completely different story.
Yeah, but it's valid, and I mean, you see, like I'm sure you probably see in like one of the things I always was impressed by in Berlin was like it's weird, like the cops are like they're all dressed like Ninja Turtles, like they're super like armored out, and there's 20 of them at all times, like, but it's the most peaceful shit, like.
But that city polices itself. People are walking around naked. You can walk around naked out there. They don't care. People are walking around drinking in the streets. It does police itself. I mean, there's crime out there, but nothing remotely close to the United States. Yeah. Anywhere in the United States.
I mean, it's funny. The crime's actually up in Berlin. Like, I mean, just like that area where especially you're at. Kapusator. It's like I've been hearing
you can't be there. You can be there, but expect for something shady to happen at some point. Which it happened to me before. I had two guys come up to me, one push me up. Thankfully, they didn't do anything because I kicked one of the guys. I used to do Taekwondo. He wasn't expecting that.
Okay.
So I kicked one of the dudes, and they just fled.
Yeah.
But they were trying to jump me.
Yeah, I got pickpocketed right out of my place.
Wow.
Like right in front. And it seems like a guy bumps into me, and you're like, whoa, hold on. And then it's like that split second where I'm like, wait a minute. It's gone.
Yeah.
The motherfucker's just way too fast.
Yeah.
There was no way I was going to catch him. We got about halfway. He got halfway down the block. I got like a quarter of the way down the block in the same time. And he stopped running. He looked over his shoulder and gave me like a, and
then
just kind of kind of jogged off, and I was like,
there
was no way.
Yeah,
It was
they're
like
just used to it. They're track and field stars, man.
Well,
those
yeah,
guys.
I mean, this is like a 16-year-old kid. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
not going to outrun a 16-year-old kid.
Right,
Like,
right,
I'm
right.
40 years old. It's just not happening.
You're just like, all right, man, do what you got to do.
But it was that insult to injury was what really, like, the 60 euros I had in my, and he actually dropped my wallet, which is what they do. Like, they get the cash out and then drop the wallet.
then drop it,
because
okay.
then you can't prove.
Right.
Right. So like, I lost was 60 euros, but it was really that insult. That,
Yeah,
like,
the fact you got jacked by a little 16-year-old kid.
And then the shrug, the turn and shrug. I was
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, like, I had a buddy that got basically jumped by 3 guys. And,
Ooh. Got beat?
Yeah, like he came like at Spreewald Platz right there, and like
Right.
it's like 4 a.m, and there's a ring on my door, and I was like, who the fuck is
Dude,
that?
I just
And
got
like,
jumped. I need some money.
Yeah, I hear my buddy. He's outside. He's like, they got me. And I'm like, well, buzz him up, and he's all bleeding. And it's like,
Wow.
like
Yeah,
right there at
that can
Spreewald
happen at
Platz,
any
so.
point, anywhere. But I mean, it's happening more in Berlin, but not even remotely close to the United States.
No, not at all. And nobody has a gun. Like, that's the end of the day. You're not.
They got
like,
knives though. You know, they got knives.
for sure.
You can definitely get killed with a knife, but it's not a gun. It's not as easy as just like shooting a guy from 200 meters away and trying to see if you hit him or not. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
I mean, was there a lot of that, like where you were growing up in Miami? Was it like
Yeah. I live right. I mean, the area that I live in right now is it's a very Cuban part of town, but you drive 5 minutes, we're already in like Overtown or like the GTA. Grand Theft Auto. Like there's one there's one part of the city that's actually in there, and it's the Overtown, almost Wynwood area. It's pretty ghetto. Like I would not be caught dead walking around there. It's being a white guy, like it just doesn't work. Yeah, it's probably here, like in Compton or.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately here it's like, well, fortunately, but it's this city's segregated enough.
Right.
It's like you could easily go forever without getting in those neighborhoods,
Right,
which
right.
is not necessarily a good thing. Like,
Yeah.
we're out here in Venice right now, where it's just like,
where there's complete poverty on the other side. That's definitely not a good thing. It's kind of like Brazil. You got the favelas and then extremely rich right next to it.
And that's really happening downtown now here in LA. I don't know if you spend a lot of time downtown, but
yeah.
You'll have
my buddy
like,
lives in downtown. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have these like all these like people are moving into downtown and trying to make this awesome there was a word there was just some article they were talking about the word. It was like, wasn't prosperity. There was a certain word that like indicates we're pushing all the poor out and we're gonna like have our awesome rich place. And they were saying like that's not like that's so often the goal in urban development, but it shouldn't be. There's a better word that kind of indicates more like integrating everything and kind of brings everybody up. And I don't remember the word or the article, so I don't even know why I'm talking about this right now.
Yeah. That happens, I think, in every city. It's happening right now in Miami with this place called the Coconut Grove. The Coconut Grove area in Miami was extremely poor and extremely rich right next to each other from one street to the other. Now they're pushing everybody out. Yeah. Which I don't know where everybody goes, but it's...
Yeah, Miami's where I have no real sense in Miami. Like I have like going to visit my grandma in Fort Lauderdale when I was real little.
Right.
And then I have like, a couple trips to Winter Music Conference over the years.
Yeah. Well, Winter Music Conference is definitely not Miami.
Right.
Miami has its super rich culture, obviously in with the Hispanic, Latin roots. But it's mostly Cuban. Yeah, it's mostly Cuban, and it's a place where back in the day there was and I've spoken about it before, there was a very, very big scene in experimental music and electro, Miami bass, freestyle music, which there was a big generation gap where EDM came in and sort of just everybody just stopped going out. Those people that are now maybe 36, 37, those people don't go out anymore. Now it's like the 23-year-olds that have no clue who Debbie Deb is, that have no clue who like Arthur Baker is, or Pretty Tony, who produced some of the biggest like freestyle and electro.
No, fair
records.
enough. Arthur Baker's like 60 years old. Like,
I
actually he might not be that old. Sorry, Arthur.
No, he's
but
he's
yeah, he's
in his 50s,
but even the stuff that was like the Schematic record guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Like those
Schematic and Merc, for example, like M3RCK, the experimental stuff. Romulo from Schematic is still doing stuff, but there's a generation gap that don't know who he is, that don't know what Schematic is, that don't really know Audubon Shirak or stuff like that, that know me, but maybe don't know some other guys, or the opposite. Some of the older guys maybe don't know who I am and know all these other dudes. And I've always, and what I've been trying to do now is kind of piece this all together so people even outside of Miami and outside of that small group of people know that this existed, because there was a very close connection between Detroit and Miami that a lot of people do not know about. Whether it's like ghetto, they had ghetto tech over there. We had booty music. We had booty. They had ghetto tech. So guys like DJ Laz from Miami and DJ Godfather from Detroit are good friends.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people don't know this.
Yeah, I mean, we had like, it was like who was it? Like Will Webb put out
Will
a bunch
Webb,
of,
wow.
yeah, he was,
Will Webb, damn,
you know,
I
back
haven't
and
heard that
forth
name
all the time.
Right, yeah, Will Webb, and yeah, but is he from Detroit?
He was Detroit. I don't want to say he was from Detroit, but he definitely had like strong connections. I feel like he lived there for a while.
Him and this guy named Grumptronics. Do you remember Grumptronics?
Name I don't remember.
Grumptronics.
Or maybe he was he a Miami guy and he just came up to Detroit all the time?
To be honest, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But there was this definite kind of like where it was still party music.
Yeah.
But it was definitely like heavy raw electro.
Yeah. You had Juan Atkins in Detroit, and we had Pretty Tony.
Okay.
Doing like under the name Freestyle, Don't Stop the Rock,
right.
That kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you had but then by the time you get into like, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s, where it's like schematic and stuff, it definitely gone more into like abstract music. It wasn't so.
I think, Merc and Schematic, for me, were the reasons I got started. I got super weird with music super early, was because of the mixture that they use experimental and dance stuff at the same time. They would put Miami bass and experimental music together, and you would create something you can dance to, but it was a total mindfuck.
Right.
You're like, what the hell am I listening to right now?
Now, how big was that in reality? Like, how many people were going out for that kind of stuff in Miami when it was happening? Because I feel like even at its peak, couldn't have been more than a few hundred people.
No, it was thousands.
Really?
It was in the thousands. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say 2,000
Okay.
people. We full moon festival. I mean, the full moon parties at Malibu Castle Park would have, I'd say 4,000 people, but that was very different.
So that was a bunch of different genres, and all
different
sorts
genres,
of different...
yeah, and maybe even more. Maybe it would be like 4,000 to 5,000 people. The experimental electro parties. There was one place called Polish-American Club, which was literally that. It was a Polish-American club where they'd hang out, play bingo in the daytime, and then at night they'd clear all the tables and it would be just a huge dance floor. And that was a couple thousand people.
Yeah.
Listening to like some of the weirdest dance music ever. And then all of a sudden it just disappeared.
Yeah.
When I got out of house arrest, I noticed it. I was like, damn, what the hell happened? Like I got out of house arrest and it just didn't exist anymore.
That's weird. That is weird. But I mean, a similar thing happened. This would have been 2001.
No, I got off in 2005 maybe.
Okay.
Like 2005, it just didn't exist anymore. Maybe even 2004.
Yeah.
Just
I don't know. But it's weird because I mean, like these numbers we're talking about are nothing compared to, the mainstream stuff that's happening in Miami.
A Friday night or Sunday night at Berghain and brings how many people?
Or a Sunday night at Space in Miami, even like I'm trying to think about like locally.
Yeah, even Space, yeah.
That
brings a couple thousand people in and out, maybe 5 to 6, maybe.
Yeah, but there's it seems to, and I haven't been down to Miami in quite a while, and I haven't been at all I've never partied in Miami outside of Winter Music Conference. It's a whole other thing.
Art Basel is the time to go to now.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
But there's stuff like what's the spot? Electric Pickle.
Yep.
Like a bunch of my friends are really hot on. Like a bunch of my friends are playing down there.
Yeah, the Pickle's great. Smaller venue, but they know what's up with the music. There's a couple. It's very promoter driven. I think that's the way it is mostly nowadays. But you have the guys Link. They do Trade. This club called Trade on the beach. They do a couple other different parties. So it's very promoter driven now, and everybody's fighting for the same 600 people. 600 to 1,000 people. Everybody's fighting for those same people. And that's what I think kind of dilutes Miami and why there's maybe not that much music coming out of there. And, it's known as a party town, but a different type of party.
Yeah. Well, this is a hard thing for a lot of cities and a lot of scenes where it's, if you just have the same people over and over and over again. I mean, I guess I always felt like most of the people in Miami weren't going, like they were tourists that were going out clubbing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's what it was.
It's been like a clubbing destination.
Yeah, now it's coming back though.
Mm-hmm.
Now with guys like Safe and Link, those groups and Plot, they're bringing the scene back. But at the same time, I can see how hard it is to fight for the same amount of people. And it's a shame. It's a shame that scene of full moon doesn't exist anymore because it's the only reason I'm here. And it's something that other people, I don't think, will ever experience again. Going out to, like, they would throw full moon parties in the Everglades right next to, I'm talking about swamps. There's there's alligators out there, and you're dancing right next to it was amazing. It was amazing.
Okay, so one thing I want to kind of talk about. I took a quick look at this, I guess, like interview you did for Resident Advisor a couple months ago, and it was the very start of the article talks about a quote where it's like you're talking about like people not understanding that it's like you had like an ectomorph track on a podcast or something. It was and you know I know you've talked quite a bit about you came to recognition because of the record on Hot Creation and the whole Jamie Jones connection,
right?
And you didn't feel comfortable with that scene. It's funny. I had a very similar realization just a few weeks ago. I was in Detroit for Movement,
right?
And it was 2 days apart. One day I went to it was a Resolute party that was happening, and like it was cool. It was like Zip and Dan Bell were playing, like totally like cool party musically. But it definitely it was like that all black, kind of like we're at Movement this weekend. We'll be
dressed in all black.
We're going to be in Ibiza later this summer. That kind of just like that vibe. That, that sunglasses, like
Yeah, techno. It's just social techno.
Social techno. Okay, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And then the next night I went to the No Way Back party, which is the thing that the
Pasleco, was it interdimensional transmissions?
Yeah, it's IT party that the bunkers, it's like Carlos Ufrant, BMG, Pasleco, Patrick Russell,
probably Servito and all those guys.
Servito,
as well.
yeah, I didn't. Servito played last, and I didn't make it quite that late. I had to hang out with my nieces that afternoon.
Yeah,
but it was such a different crowd. Like you could really see this. Like, and I told Brendan the next night when I ran into him again. I was just like, you guys have really developed this like. It's not really hippie, and even hippie doesn't sound good anymore because like everybody thinks of like Burning Man,
like
the
lightning in a bottle kind of vibe.
Exactly, but it's not that. It's like real
raw
weird people. It's like 200-pound girls with like shaved heads and Detroit tattoos on their neck.
Hell yeah!
Like,
that's the
falling
sound
out of their tops. And
that's like the sound I grew up on. Was that right there? And that vibe just in general existed in Miami. That vibe right there of just a bunch of weirdos. I used to color my hair. I used to have crazy spikes with like white. I used to wear white contacts. Like I was a freak.
Oh man,
I was a total freak listening to Ectomorph, listening to like everything that came out on Ursat's Audio, old adult records, or that kind of stuff was like the normal for us. And I don't know what happened. It's crazy. Just from a couple of years, it just disappeared. Now there's a resurgence of quote unquote American DJs, guys like Honey Sound System and Plasleco. Plasleco's been doing it for a while, but Servito and all these guys. Thankfully, these guys are all getting like the recognition for being badass DJs.
Yeah, it's funny. Like everyone's been doing it for 20 years.
Exactly.
But some
people get noticed.
Everybody's getting noticed. Like it's weird
crazy
thing. And I was talking to Brendan about this. It's like, what are we going to? What a wave of DJs who are starting to travel when they're 40. And
it's crazy, man. You're like you need like cortisone shots.
Exactly. Like by the time you're 40, you're either supposed to be established enough that you're flying business class.
Yeah, or you're retired already. You're just on your yacht or something.
But it's all my friends from Detroit. It's all the kids I knew from like Plasleco and Jason Kendig from Honey Sound System had a Tuesday night residency at the club I worked at in Detroit. And it was like, Carlos Ufrant was there every weekend. And, like Patrick Russell. Patrick was the person who, the first time I saw two records get mixed was at a house in East Lansing, Michigan. Patrick.
What was that, like in the 80s? It had to be in the 80s. No, it had to be in the 80s.
I was a little late. I'll admit I was a little late coming to it. This would have been 95.
Okay.
Where like I had been to a few things in Detroit.
Okay.
Where I had literally walked into things where it's like, I walked into something in like 92 where I was like me and my girlfriend like the only white people.
Right.
Like someone was just like, yo, come to this thing, and we walk in and it was like in my head at least, it's like that scene in the movie where like, you walk in and like the record goes and everybody turns to look at the white kids.
The two white kids, yeah.
But it took a little while for me to figure out what for me to get interested enough to try to figure out like what. I don't even think I understood that there was a DJ playing records at that party.
Right.
Like, I don't even think I had that sensibility.
I think right around that time is when I saw my first DJ. Like and the fact that it was like in battle mode. The turntables
That's
were in
had to be a
battle
whole
mode.
other thing,
And
right?
I was like, what the hell? Why? And it was this guy named Felix Sama from Power 96 was DJing one of my school parties. I'm like, why is that guy playing? What is he doing with those turntables, and why are they turned sideways? Like my dad had turntables, but they weren't Techniques or anything. But I'm like, they didn't look right. I was like, dude, what is this? This is amazing. And then within a year later, I was like, all right, this is what I need to do.
But your dad had like 2 turntables, or your dad was a DJ?
No.
or-
My dad had just like something to play.
Okay, yeah, sure.
records
But
on,
yeah,
yeah.
generally speaking, for whatever reason,
It's always horizontal.
exactly. It's
battle mode, people put
tone
it-
arm on the right,
Exactly.
facing. Yeah,
So what drew me was the fact that it was vertically placed. I was like,
that's so
why
funny.
is he playing it like that? Then I saw him doing some stuff with the crossfader. I didn't know what the hell that was, and that's what drew me to it.
yeah. I think initially, like, I think I thought that like you had like a record with bass lines and like a record with drums, and like you were constantly playing different instruments off different.
Oh, right.
And it's one of those things like back then, it's like it's all happened so fast.
Yeah.
I actually probably thought this for about 3 days. Like
Yeah,
between
yeah,
going
yeah.
to my first, like going to a party and meeting some people, and then like seeing Patrick actually like it couldn't have been more than 2 weeks.
Right.
But at the time, it felt like there was like this, everything is multiplying so quickly back
Right.
then.
Yeah.
But it's like I definitely remember like actually driving around. I had a roommate who was a DJ, and it was like I kind of just met the dude. Like we moved in, through mutual friends. And I remember like not wanting to ask him how it worked. I had this suspicion that that's how it worked.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to ask him how it worked because I didn't want to seem like I didn't know
stupid.
what.
Yeah,
right.
like,
So I
what-
was like,
Yeah.
and then like Patrick came over to our house because turntables, and I think seriously that was like the moment where I'm like, oh, that's how this works.
Yeah. You're just mixing tracks. Yeah. Now it's at another level. Now it's like level 10,000 where you can take 28,000 records and do whatever you want with it.
So are you doing that when you play?
No.
No?
I use a lot of effects because of the way that I play. So I use a Pioneer mixer, but I'm very into just selecting good music. That just drives. I don't play very minimal sound unless it's like as a tool in the beginning or in the middle of a set or something, but I don't really play 3 or 4 tracks at once. It's just not what I'm into. I'm into tracks that tell a story. Tracks that you listen to, you're like, damn, this is, when you walk out the door, you're like, that was a badass record. That song that did this. You remember it when you walk out the door rather than what we said before, social techno. Or what I think social techno is just like every here and there one record, you'll be like, oh, damn, this is cool. But you really don't remember it when you walk out the door. You just know that you had a good time and the grooves were good and you had a good time, but you maybe don't remember the record. You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, what kind of stuff are you playing right now? Like, what are you gravitating towards? Like when you talk about these kind of bigger records, because a lot of people are complaining that there's these big records don't really exist right now. Like,
Right.
Are you having to go back in time or?
I mean, I think my label, OMNIDISC, is a good representation of what it is that I play. There's a guy out here from LA, Dean Grenier, that I just released. That this guy's a badass, really good producer, and he has what I like, which is rawness, and at the same time you remember tracks. Like the stuff that he did for me, you just remember this record with a huge build up. But then like the flip side tracks, the B sides, are something just completely different, very melodic. So I don't know. I actually don't know what it is that I play, to be honest, because it would depend on the party. It would depend on what time it is. Is it open air? Is it,
Right.
But there's always a cohesiveness to it, and it's usually pretty raw. Like I definitely don't like things that are quantized. I like mistakes, and it usually gravitates to techno, like Detroit techno and electro. Miami bass and stuff like that is usually what I mix.
Are you just running CDJs? Are you
CDJs and vinyl.
okay?
Yeah, I still buy a lot of vinyl. If I'm traveling, in France where I have to take 20 trains, I'm definitely not going to carry around a crate of 100 records. I'm just not going to do it. So usually I buy vinyl, I rip it, remaster it, and play that out. But if I buy something in Barcelona and I'm playing in Barcelona, I'll definitely play vinyl.
Okay. So
Yeah.
where are the spots? Like, is there the record stores in Barcelona? Like, where are your spots?
Which was the one that I used to go to in Barcelona? Piccadilly? No. What was it called? Dance? Completely forgot what that's called. Usually I just go to Hardwax or online. I shop a lot on Discogs for old stuff, and they just get sent to me.
Right.
Or if not, I'll just bring my old. I mean, I have like a collection of about 6,000, which about maybe I would say 3,500 are like pretty much just techno.
Okay.
So I'm going back into that, and I'm finding tracks that I used to, they were like 145 BPM, that if I slow them down, really playable stuff now. Stuff on combination research, which is like the Advent.
Yeah.
I'm playing a lot of that stuff now.
That stuff is. I remember seeing like Advent, like doing like all hardware live PAs in the 90s.
Oh
and,
man,
like,
yeah, him and the Industrializer, like Those dudes are amazing. That was a big influence in my sound. And he always, every B2 on Combination Research was always an electro record. So that's why I used to buy those records.
Oh, right,
because
yeah,
of
yeah,
the
that's
electro
right.
records. So now I'm going back into that and checking out techno tracks that I didn't even know existed because I only played
you were only
electro.
listening to the electro back
I was
then.
only electro. That's it. So now I'm going back and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So I'm playing all these tracks and it's old stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny. A lot of those I talk about this with quite a few DJs on this podcast, but like the taking the old records and slowing them down.
Yeah.
And like the weird wobbles and
I mean if you pitch it down, that means like the entire pitch of the record, the entire it's gonna be darker and lower.
Yeah,
and
sure.
The bass gets lower and everything. I love that. I love that sound.
So what do you so what do you have coming up now? Like what are you like? What's your summer looking like?
Oh God, it's insane. Yeah, I mean, I was talking to my buddy now. I'm playing with Egyptian Lover quite a bit. We're doing Berghain. We're gonna be playing. I mean, we're not playing together or anything, but we have like a row of like 5 shows back to back to back to back.
Huh,
that we were billed.
Do you guys have the same agent or something?
No,
like,
we don't.
Okay,
We don't. Wait, I don't think we do.
Maybe you do.
I'm with Little Big. Nah, I don't think I do. I don't know. I don't think so. But no, I mean, there's just way too much stuff coming out. I just started working on my album, which is my first album, I just has to be like exactly what I want it to be. I'm definitely not conforming at all. I don't want any big radio hits or anything like that. It just has to be exactly what I want.
So who do you know who's gonna? Are you putting it out yourself, or because I know
No,
you like
so don't. It would depend. I mean, I'm talking to a couple labels,
yeah.
but it
So I
would
know you
depend.
got some stuff with Kompakt going on now.
Yeah, I mean, I work with Kompakt, Ultramajik. I mean, my agency is is the guys from Leisure System.
Oh, okay.
But they're also tied in with Warp. So I just want to make the album first and then do it. I mean, Domino,
Right.
Ninja Tune, like stuff like that would be, I think, more fitting than anything else. Because the stuff that I do on Kompakt or even my own label is more DJ driven, dance floor driven. Stuff that I do with Jimmy on Ultramajik is more just big banging shit. So the album is gonna show a little bit more of where I come from rather than like just trying to make some banging records.
And Jimmy's out here now, right?
Jimmy lives out here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that who somebody told me
yeah.
you're doing studio time today? Is that who
Yeah.
who you're connected
with Jimmy, yeah.
Okay, right
Yeah.
on. So another
So, yeah.
Detroit dude.
Yeah.
So although it's weird, it's like we kind of know each other, but we kind of don't. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like he's one of those people I never got to know, and at one point we bothered to be like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?"
Well,
but then after so
started-
many years, we never had a conversation beyond "Hey, how's it going?" So we kind of
Right.
stopped bothering to say "Hey, how's it going?"
Right. Because then it gets awkward.
Yeah,
It's
so
like,
I mean,
what's your name again?
You can tell him Josh Glazer says, "Hey, how's it going?" And
Yeah,
he
yeah.
may-
I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
But like I don't think we've ever had a real conversation.
Yeah, he's a
it's-
super cool dude, man.
No, yeah,
Super
no
cool dude.
reason. We have so many mutual friends.
There's
It's
so
just
many
one of those-
artists out there. Like I'm very picky, especially after I came out of jail and house arrest of who it is that I interact with, simply because I saw how many people just completely parted ways with me. Like didn't give a shit until I came back and they saw that I was traveling. All of a sudden, I'm getting hit up randomly for guest lists.
Right.
So I mean, he's one of those people that I just like as a person, and that's usually what I'm working with, whether it's like in the fashion industry, because I do stuff for, I do scoring for fashion and stuff like that. I just have to like the people in order to work, because if not, it's just fake. It's just completely fake.
Yeah, I should have him in here. I should have him on the podcast.
Call him right now.
So,
Swing
but
through.
but the last thing we want to, because we have, how much time do we have? We got a little bit of time still.
Cool.
I know when you came out of jail and you were like back, checking everything, or came out of house arrest. Sorry. And we're figuring out you got into like the bootleg scene for a while.
Yeah.
Like the mashups and
Yeah.
have you.
Yeah, I was definitely doing mashups for a while. That was a very good way to pay off $75,000 in debt. That's specifically what it was. And for a while, I was killing cockroaches. That's all that I could do, because I had a record. They weren't going to let me into a proper job.
Right, sure.
So I was like, damn, what the hell can I do? So I got a job killing cockroaches. I was a pest control technician, killing, but at the same time at night, I would work on music. And all of a sudden, it was just like, I always remember, the scene in Indiana Jones where he flips the
idol with the sand.
Exactly. It's exactly what happened to me.
Okay.
Just from one day to the other, just went poof. I used the knowledge that I had in making people dance. I threw it over Blister in the Sun, for example. Now all of a sudden, Blister in the Sun is getting played in Las Vegas clubs. And I was like, damn, okay, we need to start. I teamed up with a friend of mine from Minneapolis, and I was like, yo, man, let's do something. How about discotheque? Let's call ourselves discotheque. And this is going to be my money making thing. But that only lasted 3 years. But I made enough money to take a year off and produce my one big track that people knew me for. And this is why I'm here talking to you now.
Right. And that was a whole thing for a while. The whole, like, I mean, obviously, like, everybody knows mashups were a thing, but it's funny to think that was 10 years ago now. Like, at
it
least.
Was. And
like,
I mean, I don't know if we got credited, but AM, DJ, we signed with DJ AM back in the day with, what was his? Deckstar, I think it was called. Deckstar. So we were like one of the first guys on Deckstar, and we got sort of credited for being the guys to make the best transitions. Because we weren't just doing mashups, we were fully producing records. This was like remixing straight up. While a lot of people were just like getting
the acapella here,
blah blah blah.
Here,
and this. No, we were fully producing it and like doing transitions from 120 BPM down to 80 up to 100 and something. And we were pretty much the first guys that made it in a way where it's like, damn, this is very playable at a club.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't do it, you know. Like I said, I don't ever want to conform. I knew that I was going to do this only for money because I didn't even know that the techno scene existed to the point that it is right now. Like that I'm making money. This is all I do. I didn't know this existed. I never thought in my entire life that I would be making money off of this.
Yeah. So I mean, were you not even feeling it when you were doing it? Was it that calculated?
I definitely was feeling it because it was something different at the time, and towards the end of my house arrest, they put me in this thing called community control, where they'd let me leave and go DJ. So I was playing at this place called Pawn Shop in Miami.
Oh yeah, that was a great club.
Yeah, and I was one of the like first DJs there. So I would intentionally go and like play Phil Collins, but then throw in what's that big beat record? I've got the big beat.
Oh, Philly Squire. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would throw like that, just loop it in there and throw it over whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I loved it. That was so
the
much
whole
fun.
thing. I mean, that was like Z Trips kind of started that. And
Exactly,
then like too many DJs. Like
Too
the
many
first
DJs,
Radio
yeah.
Soul Wax came out.
Right.
And then like AM was kind of right on the tail end of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I still remember the Too Many DJs did. There was a Dolly Parton into 9 to 5. It was 9 to 5 into like Apple Royksop.
Right.
It was like that. They did like this mashup. I was like, this is amazing.
I just remember that like that disc, like it had like No Fun on it, like the Stooges.
Yeah.
Like in some electro clash thing.
I think that same CD had Dexter, this guy Dexter from Clone Records.
Yeah.
This track called Mr. Blunt. And so in one CD, I hear Dolly Parton, Dexter, Billy Squire, or what was it? Royksop, Apple. It's like, what the hell? This is amazing. And I kind of got into it. I was like, all right, dude, I can do this as well because, damn, these dudes are doing it.
Yeah.
And I got in the tail end of it.
I remember hearing, it was right before I moved from Detroit. So this would have been like 02, 03. Like there was a Whitney Houston Kraftwerk.
Yeah.
That was a big one. That was one of the, oh, no. The first one I heard, and do you know Brian Gillespie?
Of course.
From Database?
Of course.
Database, right?
He's partners with Brian, DJ Godfather.
Yeah.
For Database,
exactly.
Twilight
Database.
70.
Yeah.
Twilight 76 as well.
Brian was also a DJ at. He did when Pleslako and Kendig, the Tuesday nights with Pleslako and Kendig did the kind of like we had the club had 3 rooms. And the big room was closed on Tuesday. Like the medium sized room was Pleslako and Kendig, and then Gillespie was DJing in the back room, which maybe like holds like 50 people.
Right.
And he came back from the UK, like his first time overseas. This would have been like 2001 the latest.
Yeah.
And he had it was Chris Isaak's Plastic Man mashup on like 10-inch white vinyl.
Right,
you know the track
the Wicked Games versus the Wicked Games versus
it was the Plastic Man remix of La Funk Mob.
Yeah.
And I remember because Brian, I mean, God bless him, he's not the most technically proficient DJ.
He has a badass record collection.
Dude,
though.
he does. He's such a talented dude.
I think he's selling it too. I think he's like basically sold it all.
Really? Well, I know. I just
so.
ran into him in an elevator in Detroit, and I didn't know he was living in Wisconsin now.
I didn't know that.
He moved out to Madison. He's got a family, and
Gotcha.
But we didn't really get a chance to talk. But I distinctly remember like walking to the room and hearing this like Chris Isaak's mixed with Plastic Man remix of La Funk Mob, and thinking like, this is the best mix Gillespie's ever. Like it was so on time and perfect. And, he held the mix, and I was like, holy shit! And I went over and like complimented him.
Nice.
I was like, this is the best mix I've ever heard you do.
He's like, nah, man,
like,
it's already on the record. He's like mixing it perfectly on time. Yeah.
So, but that time
was really fun for me. That time was really fun for me, but I knew what I was doing. I knew, I was already listening to Twilight 76 and Database when I was 13 years old, and Ursat's Audio record label. Intuit Solar was another one from
John Lane's label. Yeah,
Intuit Solar, that kind of stuff. So I went into this knowing, okay, I'm going to go and produce a remix for Kanye West or Katy Perry or whatever it was that we did. But knowing that I was going to get out of it, I just didn't know that, wow, the first record that I made, taking that pop mentality, turned into, at that time, I didn't know Jamie Jones. I didn't really know. I listened to the label. I was like, damn, this is awesome. But, no disrespect to him. I just wasn't into that scene at all. I didn't know anything about it because my scene was this Miami electro weird stuff. And I produced what I thought was a Miami bass and new wave record slapped together. Somebody called it Deep House, and I was like, cool, man, sure, name it whatever you want. I know Deep House for me was Rick Wade and Pepe Braddock and stuff like that, but it's like, yeah, dude, call it whatever you want. Let's put it out. Sure, let's go. People seem to like it. Then all of a sudden, my first gig ever in Europe was at Fabric. Yeah. My first gig ever in Europe is London Fabric, one of the places that most people in their lives would...
That would be the dream gig.
Would be one of the dream gigs. Yeah, I was like, holy shit, this is crazy, man. And when I played that one track, there's like YouTube videos online where it just distorts, just like people just freak out when I played that tune. And that's one of the coolest experiences for me, coming from house arrest, knowing that, most people thought I was going to fail at life probably, to just working as hard as you possibly can and being where I'm at now,
Yeah. And are you still in touch with those guys? I mean, you like cool with Jamie and Lee and everything? Or like, do you just,
I'm still cool. Crossing? No, I'm still cool with them, but yeah, we just don't cross paths because I'm kind of playing, I guess, a different scene, like my agency is completely different. But no, when I see those guys are awesome. They're awesome dudes. I
don't know them personally. Like
they're super cool dudes. I mean, we just don't. We never get to see each other. But yeah, man, it's all good.
So what else did you see the AM documentary, the movie that just came out?
I haven't. No, I kind of want to see that actually.
I mean, it's really good, and it's and this is another guy like we're always 1 degree of separation.
Right,
like,
right.
Never, I think it maybe met him once, but like wasn't in that world. But like I knew like
he was such
all
a
the
nice
guys
guy,
that started doing Dexstar, and
he was such a nice dude. I mean, I would at that. I don't know how old I was at that. What was maybe 20, 21, 22. At that time, AIM was still AOL Instant Messenger was still huge, and I would go back and forth with him. I was like, man, this guy's like dating some of the biggest celebrities. Like he was to me, he was a celebrity, and he was just chatting with me like, hey, bro, what's up?
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, man, this guy's awesome. And then when he passed away, he's one of the reasons that most of these DJs that were traveling doing this circuit, it started because of him.
Yeah.
Straight up, started because of him.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely like he got it.
Yeah.
Both musically and business wise.
And business wise as well. Yeah. I mean, Z-Trip, Z-Trip is a badass, but Z-Trip was a bit more experimental while
and a little and just a few years earlier,
Yeah. Well, like, Adam he knew how to play for the celebrities, how to play, how to drop whatever it was, I don't know, some Bon Jovi over something else and make it still kind of cool.
Yeah.
So that was really, really cool. He'd play, I think he had one mix where it was like Wonderwall. He'd do a whole routine with Wonderwall. Yeah. I was like, wow.
No, I think that's in the movie actually.
Is it? Okay.
It's a beautiful movie. It's totally worth seeing. It was definitely I went to the premiere at the Ace Hotel a few months ago.
Right.
And it was like it's a tragic fucking story.
It is,
and to watch it, in a theater full of, his best friends.
Yeah, I'm sure there's people crying.
Yeah, it was wrenching. Like his family was there. Oof. Like it was really tough.
Wow.
But
drugs, man.
But it's it's the worst kind of drug story too. Like and it's a more and more common story where
painkillers and prescription.
It wasn't fucking he had the recreational past, but it wasn't.
But it got rehashed because of the airplane.
Yeah,
the airplane crash. That's crazy, man. And prescriptions.
So, but I mean, like now it's like what though? And like everyone's tripping out about Prince,
right?
Like and it fucking sucks. But it's like. We're surprised that somebody gave.
Yeah, Michael Jackson as well. Like, who's surprised?
Elvis fucking Presley. Like Jimi Hendrix, Elvis Presley. Like these are all like as long as there has been, these pop star artists.
That's the way they go.
There has been these weird medicines that they get strung out on and eventually kills them.
Right.
Like it's the.
I don't do drugs.
Archetypal story.
Like I don't do drugs, and I think that's probably one of the reasons. I also have like a heart condition that is the main reason, but I just don't do it because man, it would really suck. I think about it consistently. It would really suck for my mom to get a call at 5 a.m. is like, your son in Berlin just passed away of a drug overdose. That thought right there is what keeps me from not doing heavy stuff. Like I'll drink, I'll party my ass off, but
it's rarely the choice. It's not like any of these people are choosing like, I'm gonna go shoot heroin because I want to get a fucking high and party.
Right.
It's like, it's the doctors gave them these pills.
Right.
Like,
No, yeah,
I'm not embarrassed about talking about this stuff with my mom anymore.
Yeah.
I used to be like you were, where I was like, I'd have that like, oh man, like.
You don't want that thought of
like, and it usually comes like when you're actually doing drugs. You have that moment where you're like, "Oh God, like
I don't want to die right now.
Is my heart beating right now?" And
Mom, you're gonna send a pretext just in case you're like passed out. You just hit that last text.
But honestly, then my mom ended up caught up with some stuff that the doctors gave her for a few years. And,
wow.
Thank God she's through it, and it's been years since she's taken anything. But same deal, back injury. Take these meds. She couldn't work. So she was upset. She's like, take some Valium, mix it with these, this Oxy.
It almost happened with me recently with temazepam.
Okay,
which is a sleeping pill.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been taking temazepam now for maybe 7 or 8 years. But there was one point where I was taking it basically every day or every other day to go to sleep. Now I take it maybe once a week on a Sunday when I get back. And it does reset my clock, and I'm using it, I think, the way it's supposed to be used. But I can see how easy it is to get hooked on something like that, because I remember I would stay up on it. I would go make music, and I wouldn't even remember what I did the next day. And I'd be like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I was making some tracks. I was like, how the hell did I come up with this? I don't even know how I made this sound. So I can see how easily you can become hooked on that, because it gives you creativity. It gave me a creative outlet that I didn't even know I had. Like a completely different mind space.
You don't remember like the actual creative process while you're taking these?
No. I literally do not remember anything the way the track was made. Some of the records that I've made before have been on that. Like, I was like, damn, this is very easy to get strung out on.
That's intense.
Just the fact that you wake up and you did something that you didn't even think about.
It's a freebie.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
Awesome, man. Well, I think we can leave it at that.
Cool.
But dude, thank you for coming through.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
And where should people check for you?
I guess
the normal spots, your RA
Facebook,
page,
blah,
Facebook.
blah, blah,
Are you? I've noticed I think in the past year, I feel like everyone stopped updating their like Facebook gig page.
I mean, that's one of my biggest things. I really don't use it.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'd rather. I voice myself a lot better with Twitter, because I get to say stupid shit that's in my mind. Like,
what's your Twitter?
Just Danny Daze.
Okay.
Everything. Yeah. SoundCloud is just Danny Daze. Instagram as well. Instagram is good because, I mean, to be honest, I absolutely despise the fact that people are becoming popular off of social media rather than the music. But I do know the value behind being able to show your aesthetic through Instagram, or being able to voice yourself through Twitter and stuff like that. So those are the things I usually use.
Okay.
Yeah, but Facebook, to be honest, there's that algorithm that they basically
it ruined it, man. It just
completely. I don't understand it. I don't.
And now it's like,
it.
if I want to find out like what's like who's so and so's gig schedule. Everyone used to at least keep their gig schedule on Facebook, but I feel like everyone stopped bothering with Facebook altogether because of the fucking algorithm.
Yeah. It's something that I think my management wants to use it more than I do.
Sure.
He sees value in it. But to be honest, I don't really care.
It depends. I mean,
I really don't care, because there's so many other outlets that you can use.
Look, it depends. It depends on the market. If you're really concerned about like the Italian market,
right?
You want to be on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's still like
they're huge out there.
Crystal Liebing can't sneeze without 800 comments from Italian
and
fans on Facebook. Come to Milano. It's great. Like,
it's crazy how that works. But I don't think it's like that in the States.
Scenes. No, and I don't think
Yeah, I don't think it's like that in the States. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to get on social media too much, just because I'd rather use that time on something else. Rather use that time on music.
Right on. Cool.
So
thanks, man.
We'll leave it at that.
That's it for this episode of the Rave Curious Podcast. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more conversations with key players in the electronic music community. If you like what you heard on this podcast, let us know. You can give us a shout on Twitter at Rave Curious. You can also like us on Facebook, Rave Curious Podcast. And of course, subscribe on iTunes to make sure you never miss an episode. That's it. Thanks for listening.